You may have done the healing work, the therapy, the journaling, the inner child healing, the meditation, and you still feel the abandonment wound didn't go away. And as soon as something triggered it, you drop back into the same old pattern. Because understanding alone isn't enough. And the reason that you can know exactly where the wounding is coming from and you catch the pattern as soon as it's come up, but you still feel is not going away no matter how much work you have done, it's because you may have just done the healing work on one layer of the abandonment wound. But the truth is that the abandonment wound is not only live in one layer of your trauma. It's actually live in three places. And most of the healing work is only focusing on the first one. And today we are going into all of these three layers. And the three layers are your childhood, your ancestral, and your soul. Welcome back to my channel. If you're joining me for the first time, this is the second video of the Abandonment Wound series. And in the first video, we talk about what the abandonment wound is, how is it formed, why is it formed. So if you haven't watched that video, I will highly recommend you to go back to watch that one after this video because it's actually a really good foundation of all the information that you need to understand this video deeper. And I will put the link in the description below. And in this video, I want you to take you all the way to the root of this wounding. So there's three layers to where these wounds come from. The personal layers, the ancestral layers, and the spiritual layers. And when you begin to understand all three of this layer, the healing process become much more possible in a completely different way, because now you're diving really deep into this layer within yourself that you're not consciously, understand it before. So when you're ready, let's begin. The first layer is the personal. This is the one that is the most visible and obvious. So this wounding formed in moments in your life that you feel abandoned in any way. So maybe you didn't feel help from your parents when you're a child. Maybe they're emotionally unavailable or they're always physically absent. Or maybe it's formed when your first boyfriend or girlfriend left you. Maybe it's formed when you feel very isolated, in school when your classmate and your friends, exclude you in any way. Or maybe you're growing up in a society or family or school that you learn that love was conditional. So you need to gain love by people pleasing or act in a certain way, to fulfill the expectation of others. So this wounding begins not just in one dramatic event. It accumulates in the small repeated moment where you feel that you're not held, that you feel that love is not guaranteed, that you need to earn it, you need to earn love. And the most important thing I want you to know about this wounding is that the wound is not the event itself. The wound is actually the meaning that you made out of it. So the moment that your system and you decide that I am not held, I'm not loved, I'm alone, this is where the wounds created, not in what's actually happened, but in what you believe in yourself and in your mind that what had happened to you. And this belief and this wounding is like unconsciously and quietly shaping all areas of your life, in your relationship patterns, in your choice, in your relational dynamic with your friends and your family. So, in conclusion, the personal layers of the abandonment wound is the story that you created yourself the moment that you feel abandoned. So, it is the belief that you were either too much or not enough, or you believe that you're fundamentally not lovable. So, this is not the events that cause the drama or the trauma. It is the meaning that you made out of it. The second layer is ancestral. So this is the layer that live in your ancestral line, your parents, your grandparents. So this layer is beyond your personal self. So you are carrying the ancestral imprint from your parents and all the ancestors that came before you. And also you carry the imprint, from the land that you're born into and your culture. And your parents, they came into their parenthood likely and already have some kind of wounding of themselves. So they have their own story of not being held, not being chosen, not being safe enough in their own body and the nervous system. And they're unconsciously passing it onto the next generation. So they raise their children in a behavior and the pattern that was driven, from a lot of patterns from the abandonment wound. And the children, and of course, affected, by the behavior of those parents through their nervous system, through their emotional atmospheres, of the home and through their energy and through their words. And you can imagine their parents got the wounding from their parents. So this wounding carry on like generation by generation. So for most people, you probably inherited, a wounding that's been traveling through, like generation and generation and your whole lineage. And you can also imagine that, especially for the generation of your grandparents, they lived through wars and poverty and, times when like resources are very limited. So it's a lot of like survival level, like trauma was built, from that time. And this kind of like trauma really shattered, their nervous system and their sense of safety. And their body is still carrying this level of trauma and we are all somatically like in tune with each other bodies, so you can imagine the upbringing of their children from this level of like somatic imprint in their body. So I'm bringing this layer not to blame anyone, but it's an invitation to have more compassion to yourself and to your parents and your whole ancestral line, that everyone is doing the best they can at the time with the resources they have. And by understanding this layer, you stop taking your healing journey too personal, because you know that you're not just carrying your own trauma, like your fears, your heaviness, your wounding, some of them is actually coming from your ancestral lines. And you can be the one who heal your whole ancestral line, because now you know this information, you have the power to not pass it on to your next generation. So healing the ancestral layers of the abandonment wound is the most profound act of service that you can offer it to yourself and to your next generation and the people that came before you, because you are the one who finally have the information and have the power to stop this from happening again. And by healing yourself, you're not actually just healing yourself, you're healing your whole ancestral line. Layer 3 is the spiritual. So this is the layer that I'm most passionate about. And this is the layer that I feel is rarely got talked about in the mainstream and is actually the central of the teaching of my book. And I believe this is the one that hold the key to the deepest healing, to the abandonment wound. And I want to ask you to stay open here, even if some what I have said or going to say is beyond what you can immediately understand in your mind. So in a lot of mystical tradition, there's glimpses of words and energy that spoke about this soul level abandonment wound that the whole humanity is carrying. So the Christian spoke of it as divine homesickness, the soul that knows it's come from love and desire to go back home. So the yogi traditions speak of it as the Maya, the illusion of separation, that everything in the human plane is a dream, and all of this dream is actually the root of the human suffering. And Rumi said, whoever brought me here needs to bring me back home. So to be born into a human form is to experience the separation from God. So if we speak in the language of the soul, so the soul in essence, we know that we are whole. So we know that we are connected to life and God itself. That we know that we are held in something vast and unconditional that we call God and source and love and consciousness and life. And then we arrived into this human body and reincarnated into this body, and we experience this very limited individual human experience that look like we are cut off, from the source, from God. And we forget where we came from. So this is the original imprint of the abandonment wound, the primordial shock of appearing separated from God itself. And every human being, we all carry this wounding unconsciously. Every single one of us arriving carrying the memories of when we are so that we are one with everything, and the grief of forgetting it. So when we have scenario in our life that trigger us the feeling that we abandoned, we not only trigger the personal wounding of being left or trigger this Asian ancestral line, we trigger this collective soul level memories of us separated from God and life itself. So it touches the feeling of I'm cut off, I'm alone, I'm not held, by life. So underneath the personal triggers and the ancestral heritage, there is this, the original core wound of humanity. And I want you to know that we are not separated from God and love, even we are in this human body. We never were. But we have forgotten. And in the forgetting, in living inside of this illusion of separation, is where the abandonment wound was born. Now you understand all the three layers of the abandonment wound, so you have this whole comprehensive pictures of how they form, and it's really give you a strong foundation for your healing journey. And it's require your willingness to acknowledge them and to look into your own personal life and to understand, your own childhood trauma and your patterns, and understanding your ancestral line, and your carrying trauma is from your land, from your culture, and from the people that came before you, and understanding on a soul level, the core wound of humanity. And this, give you a really strong foundation, for your healing journey. And in the next video of this Abandonment Wound series, I'm going to show you how this actually manifests, into your life, especially in your relationship patterns, and why some people, think that they have done so many healing works on themselves, but they still keep repeating this relationship pattern that didn't serve them. I will put the link of this video in the description below. My name is Yennis. On this channel, we talk about the healing of the heart in an esoteric way. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friend that you think they will benefit from this work. And I also love for you to comment below what kind of challenges that you're facing, on this healing journey, so I can support you more by creating, more videos and content, from your question and your challenge. And if you want to go deeper into what we just talked about, and also the esoteric teaching of using heartbreak and abandonment wound for initiation, I have written a book called The Heart Awakening. It's a very in-depth teaching, and it's also got practices. That is a very pioneering work that will cover so much, in this realm of healing the heart and living as love. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will hope to see you in my next video.